Now here is a little thought experiment. Imagine yourself in the world of The Walking Dead, but in this example, there are no zombies but rather what happened because of the zombies. In the fictional world of The Walking Dead, the dead become zombies and the world as we know it is over. Now we all know that zombies are not real, but what they did to the world could happen. In this world of The Walking Dead there is no oil or gasoline to run cars, no electricity and or other types of energy that run our modern industrial society. This collapse would not happen overnight. If this hypothetical scenario were to happen, what would happen first is similar to what we saw in 2020. People rushed to the grocery stores and bought as much as they could. Others ran to the ATM to get cash out. The only difference is this time it would be much worse. This time is not a supply chain problem. This time people will learn the average grocery store only has about 3 days of food per person. This time they will learn that money they took of the ATM will soon be worthless. As people lose faith in government, so will lose faith in its currency. The government tells people to prepare for things such as natural disasters. They would rather just assume the government is going to take of you. They have disaster plans for the zombie apocalypse. No, I am just kidding. The government has planned for this type. Of course I don't mean zombies. An example of this is called COG, short for continuity of government. Another example would be the strategic petroleum reserves. In a world that is no longer producing oil, only the basics would be allowed, such as food production and transportation of food, first responders, and the military. As time went on, law and order would break down. Local gangs would take form and take control. They would seize control of any resources that is left. This is similar to what we saw last summer in the so-called autonomous zone. As 2020 showed us, if people act the way they did about toilet paper, what will they do about food or medical supplies? The government has emergency oil reserves, but these reserves would not last long. As time went on, the resources were not there to maintain it. Our infrastructure would begin to collapse. Dams would burst, nuclear power plants would melt down. This alone would make the areas uninhabitable. This does not mean we go back to the Stone Age, but more like that of the 19th century. But more agriculture based with some modern 21st things like solar panels or wind turbines to produce energy. Whatever else is still left of the industrial world would have to be taken care of because there would not be the capacity to produce these things. Now imagine if you wake up in that world, would you be ready? This scenario is often referred to as when the shit hits the fan, or STHF for short. The most common reaction to this would be guns and more guns. But as The Walking Dead shows, it's not that simple. Others might be the type to have tons of food storage with bags of beans and rice or sugar. When it comes to the prepper community, they seem to have more of a lone wolf approach or a small pack or group of dozen or so prepper friends. Others seem to think just about their immediate family. But as history shows, it's strength in numbers that count. The first humans were hunter-gatherers, but we did not have things such as villages until we went from a hunter-gatherer to an agricultural society. When agriculture era began, this allowed for more free time. This is where human culture became what it is today. As the saying says, it takes a village. In the world of The Walking Dead, there are many towns or villages. They are not living on beans and rice. Instead, they are doing what people did before the industrial age. They are growing their food with community gardens. Yes, there may be some hunting, but the problem would be unable to keep the meat cold without refrigeration. When people are hunting, they will now realize what the first humans to decide how much energy it requires in terms of labor to kill and process their game. For someone to spend all evening hunting and only come back with a few squirrels would not be a sustainable plan. Even if they did get a deer, how often is it that a hunter gets a deer per hunt? They would have to carry it back on their own. Especially if it was just them alone. Imagine having to hunt if your life depended on it. Imagine trying to hunt when you have not eaten in days. In our modern industrial society, we have become out of touch with the real world with something simple as how much energy it takes to produce the food we eat. It has been estimated that for every 1 calories of food we eat, it takes 10 times that in terms of energy. Our modern technologically advanced civilization may appear resilient at a first glance, but as this thought experiment shows how fragile our society is due to the complexity of it. This is an example of how dependent we are on energy and technology. We need to improve our local communities and relationships to prepare for a world with less energy and finite resources. Do you think you or your community would be prepared?